All right, let's get into it. Our story kicks off on planet Vegeta, and things are already tense before we even get started. Frieza's just given the order. Every single Saiyan reports to the planet immediately. No exceptions, no excuses, because behind that order is something way darker. Frieza's about to wipe every last one of them out on a direct command from Lord Beerus himself. Nobody on planet Vegeta has any idea what's actually coming. Bardock's just wrapped up his own mission and is flying back to planet Vegeta when it hits him out of nowhere. Something about Frieza feels completely wrong. Call it a warrior's instinct, call it a vision, whatever it is, Bardock just knows. Frieza's not calling everyone back for some routine briefing. He's calling them back to end them, and he's doing it fast, before any of them can catch on and fight back. Bardock knows he doesn't have much time. He lands, finds Ginny, and lays the whole thing out for her. They need to get their son out of here, right now. No time to argue about it. Their older son, Raditz, is thankfully off-world already. He's out on a mission with Fasha and Pagos, nowhere near planet Vegeta when this all goes down, so at least he's safe for the moment. But Kakarot, their baby, is still right here on the planet, and that's the priority. Saving Kakarot becomes the single thing that matters to both of them. So Bardock and Ginny make the call together. They load their baby into a small space pod and set the launch coordinates for Earth, as far from this planet and from Frieza as they can possibly get him. But almost immediately after launch, something in the pod glitches. A technical fault throws the whole trajectory off, and instead of drifting toward Earth, the pod veers wildly off course toward a completely different planet, a planet that, as it happens, belongs to Lord Beerus himself. Meanwhile, over on Beerus's planet, things are a lot quieter for now. Oracle Fish, who's been known to occasionally get a read on the future, drops a strange prediction on Beerus. In 40 years, he says, Beerus is going to come face to face with the toughest rival of his entire existence. Beerus barely reacts to this. Oracle Fish's predictions have always been a mixed bag, sometimes eerily accurate, sometimes total nonsense, so he's not about to lose sleep over it. He and Whis are mid-debate about how seriously to take the prediction, going back and forth, when suddenly, completely out of nowhere, a Saiyan space pod comes screaming down and crash lands right on the surface of the planet. Beerus recognizes the pod instantly. That's Saiyan tech, the kind they use specifically for hopping between planets before they wipe them out and sell them off. And the second he puts that together, a much darker thought follows right behind it. Frieza's sending Saiyans after him directly, probably trying to snuff out his biggest fear before it grows into something that could actually challenge his position at the top of the universe. That single thought is enough to send Beerus into a full rage. He starts prepping a sphere of destruction on the spot. Whatever Saiyan steps out of that wreckage is getting vaporized the second it appears, no questions asked. But when the pod finally cracks open, Beerus gets the shock of his life. Sitting inside, completely alone, is a baby who can't even talk yet, let alone fight. If anything, that just makes Beerus angrier. This feels like some kind of cruel joke being played on him, and for a second he's genuinely ready to destroy the kid right then and there without a second thought. That's exactly when Oracle Fish steps in and stops him cold. "I really don't think you should kill this one," she tells him firmly. "Think about it. I told you your rival shows up in 40 years, which means whoever that rival is, he needs to already exist right now, today. Maybe, just maybe, this is him." Beerus pauses. He looks the baby over properly this time, actually thinking it through, and slowly the pieces start clicking into place. He walks closer, crouches down, studies the kid's face for a long moment, and mutters almost to himself, "So, this is the guy I've apparently been waiting my whole life for? Fine, then I know exactly what I need to do here. He turns to Whis. I think Oracle Fish might genuinely be onto something this time. This kid is going to be my rival one day, but if he's supposed to be a real rival to a god of destruction, he can't just grow up on his own. He needs training that actually matches that destiny. I want you to raise him yourself. I want to see, after 40 full years under an angel's training, whether a mortal can actually stand toe-to-toe with a god of destruction, or whether it's a complete waste of time. With that, Beerus sets a 40-year alarm, turns around, and heads straight back to bed like it's just another Tuesday. Whis, ever the loyal angel, agrees to take the baby on without much fuss. But there's an immediate problem. This kid is a full-blooded Saiyan, wild, aggressive, and stubborn straight out of the pod, and he is absolutely not easy to handle. All right, first things first, Whis says, holding the squirming baby at arm's length. We're going to have to fix that temper of yours. You are an absolute handful. You'll need some basic manners drilled into you too, sooner rather than later. But right now, I'm guessing you're just hungry. Let's sort that out before anything else. Whis rests the tip of his staff gently on the baby's head, and instantly a stream of information floods in. His parents' names, Bardock and Jean, and the baby's own given name, Kakarot. From this point on in the story, that's exactly what we'll call him, Kakarot, not Goku, because on this timeline, he never gets that second name at all. Whis conjures up a small containment bubble of pure energy to keep baby Kakarot from wandering off and causing chaos, and training begins almost immediately. But Whis knows perfectly well that a literal toddler isn't going to follow verbal commands, so he gets creative and starts using food as the actual training tool. He sets a plate down in front of Kakarot. The kid lunges for it, and the food vanishes and reappears behind him, off to the left, off to the right, with Kakarot scrambling after it non-stop, over and over. That constant chasing is exactly how his early movement and reflexes start developing, and whenever Whis senses Kakarot's finally hit his limit for the day, that's when he finally lets him actually eat. One day, completely without warning, Kakarot fully transforms into his great ape form for the first time, towering and roaring across the landscape. Whis, utterly unbothered by any of it, calmly walks up and removes his tail like he's clipping a fingernail. Thankfully, Kakarot hadn't managed to do any serious damage to the planet in that state before Whis stepped in. From there, Whis teaches him to speak properly, gives him a genuinely thorough education, drills him in raw, godly ki control, and this entire process, start to finish, goes on for roughly 22 straight years. By the end of those 22 years, Kakarot's fully grown, and Whis' influence is written all over him. He's calm, he's level-headed, he's already got a solid instinct for right and wrong that most Saiyans never develop in their entire lives. Both Whis and Beerus are naturally neutral by temperament, sure, but Whis carries this constant, effortless positivity underneath that neutrality, and that exact same energy has rubbed off completely on Kakarot. There's not a trace of genuine negativity anywhere in him, but that peace doesn't get to last much longer, because finally, after all these years, it's time for Raditz to show up. Raditz has been tracking Kakarot's power signature across the galaxy, and he's finally closing in on Beerus' planet. Kakarot, remember, has absolutely zero memory of planet Vegeta or of his own real origin. He was just an infant when the whole planet got wiped out. He's asked Whis about his past more times than he could count, but Whis has never once given him a straight answer, always steering the conversation elsewhere, taking him on trips to other planets instead, showing him just how vast and full of life the universe actually is, letting him try the local food along the way, distracting him just enough that the questions eventually stop coming. What Kakarot has no idea about is that his own race is technically extinct at this point, though a small handful of Saiyans somehow are still out there, still alive. So one day, while Whis and Kakarot are right in the middle of a training session, another pod comes crashing down onto Beerus' planet, kicking up dust and debris everywhere. Kakarot walks straight up to it, and Raditz steps out, immediately recognizing him as a fellow Saiyan on sight. Kakarot's confused. He genuinely thought he was the very last one left in the universe. Then comes the second gut punch of the day. Raditz Raditz casually informs him that they're actually brothers. Kakarot doesn't believe it for a second. He storms off to find Whis and confronts him directly. "I've asked you about this 100 times. Who am I? Where did I come from? Where's my actual family? You've never told me a single thing, but at least, just this once, be straight with me. Is this guy telling the truth? Is he really my brother?" Whis, in classic Whis fashion, sidesteps the direct question entirely. "Why don't you ask your brother yourself what exactly he and his little friends do for a living out there?" So Kakarot turns back to Raditz and asks him point blank. Raditz lays it out without any shame at all. Saiyans travel to other planets, wipe out the entire population living there, and then sell the planet off to the highest bidder for profit. That's the job. That's always been the job. Whis chimes in from the side, calm as ever. "Now do you understand why I never told you anything about your own race? Ask yourself honestly, do people who behave like that even deserve to call themselves a race at all?"
Slaughtering innocent people just so they can keep living comfortably. That's genuinely all it takes. Kakarot's fury spikes instantly, his power surges violently, and the resulting shockwave alone is strong enough to shatter Raditz's scouter into pieces on the spot. One clean hit later, Raditz is dead. Kakarot didn't hesitate for even a fraction of a second before killing his own flesh and blood brother, because his brother was standing on the wrong side of things, plain and simple. And honestly, that single moment says everything you need to know about how well Whis actually raised this kid. Kakarot is always going to side with what's right, no matter who's standing on the other side of that line. The instant Raditz's scouter explodes, the signal reaches Vegeta and Nappa clear across the galaxy. They start discussing this mystery power level between themselves, and slowly it dawns on both of them. This guy is nowhere near as weak as they'd assumed going in. He might genuinely be a serious warrior, someone worth recruiting, and since Vegeta and Nappa's entire long-term plan revolves around eventually overthrowing Frieza himself, they need every strong warrior they can possibly get their hands on. So the two of them decide, without much debate, to head straight to Beerus's planet themselves and see this guy in person. A full year later, Vegeta and Nappa finally touch down. Kakarot and Whis happen to be mid-training session at the exact moment they notice the new arrivals landing nearby. At this particular point in the story, Kakarot's wearing a specialized training outfit that Whis designed specifically to push his limits harder, and it is genuinely brutally heavy. Kakarot's brought this up himself more than once, complaining that training in it is borderline unbearable, but Whis keeps insisting it's an essential part of the process and that it'll pay off enormously in real combat down the line. Vegeta and Nappa walk right up to Kakarot and Whis without any hesitation. Nappa gets straight to business, trying to recruit Kakarot on the spot. Obviously, Kakarot shuts that idea down instantly, without a second thought. He turns instead to Whis and asks how many Saiyans are even still alive out there. Whis just shrugs it off casually. "Not really my department, honestly. My only job here is training you for Lord Beerus, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Nothing more." Kakarot turns back to face Vegeta and Nappa properly. Nappa gets in his face first, puffing his chest out. Nappa turns to warn Vegeta not to underestimate this guy, sensing something's off.
Kakarot looks between both of them and asks flatly, "So were you two just like my brother then, flying around to random planets, murdering innocent people who never did anything to you, all so you can keep surviving comfortably?" Nappa doesn't even flinch answering that. Not that we particularly want to, if I'm honest, but a hungry stomach doesn't really care about morals, does it? And honestly, at this point, wiping out other planets is basically baked straight into Saiyan blood. We physically don't sleep right some nights unless we've gone and done it. That's all Kakarot needs to hear. He attacks Nappa immediately, without warning. One devastating punch sends him rocketing straight up into the sky, and a follow-up ki blast finishes the job for good right there. Kakarot turns his attention to Vegeta next, who's already started powering up in response, clearly rattled by what he just watched happen to his partner. His power level is completely off any scale the Scouters could even hope to register anymore, and Kakarot can't help but grin at the sight sight of it. This fight is about to be genuinely fun for the first time in a long while. Right around then, Oracle Fish shows up and asks Whis what exactly is going on down there. Just another part of Kakarot's training, Whis tells her simply. She points out, somewhat skeptically, that Kakarot's actual strength should already be leagues beyond Vegeta's at this stage. Whis agrees completely, no argument there. Even wearing that heavy training gear, Kakarot could finish Vegeta off in about 2 seconds if he wanted to, but for whatever reason, he's holding back on purpose. Maybe he's simply enjoying the fight for once. And honestly, Whis is dead right about that. Kakarot and Goku might just be 2 different names hung on the exact same soul, but the drive to fight is baked straight into a Saiyan's DNA, no matter what you call him. And a fight only ever feels truly satisfying when the guy across from you brings real confidence and real fight to the table too. Kakarot and Vegeta trade blows for a long, grueling stretch after that. Kakarot's movements keep getting noticeably smoother with every exchange, his attacks landing sharper and faster each time. Whis notices both fighters are actively growing stronger mid-battle, so partway through he quietly cranks up the weight on Kakarot's training outfit even further, just to keep the overall power gap somewhat manageable, because Whis knows full well the longer this fight drags on, the stronger Kakarot is inevitably going to get regardless. Whenever either fighter's stamina starts dipping too low, Whis tops them both back up using his staff, and the battle just keeps rolling on and on like that.
Eventually, Whis decides Kakarot has genuinely gotten all the combat experience he needs out of this particular fight and tells him to go ahead and wrap it up now. Kakarot obviously wants to keep the fight going longer, but he's not about to flat out ignore Whis' instructions either. He puts some real distance between himself and Vegeta, takes a breath, and for the very first time in his life, transforms fully into his Super Saiyan God form, right there on the battlefield. The transformation alone sends out a shockwave powerful enough to completely short-circuit the entire surrounding area, clear proof of exactly how much raw, untapped power Kakarot's already been quietly carrying inside him this whole time. He closes the distance between them instantly, appearing directly in front of a stunned Vegeta, and drops him with a single devastating hit. Vegeta crumples to the ground, absolutely certain this is the end of the line for him. That was a genuinely fun fight, Kakarot tells him, almost gently. I learned a lot from you today, but now, unfortunately, you have to die. Vegeta, staring death dead in the face, realizes with total clarity that a Saiyan can apparently reach a power level this insane, this far beyond anything he'd ever imagined possible. With his very last breath, he warns Kakarot, "You're going to have to avenge all of our people eventually. You're the one who can actually take Frieza down for good. Use this power for that. Whatever else you do, remember that." Kakarot finishes him with one final, clean blast. Vegeta's dying words stick with Kakarot for a while after that fight ends. Who exactly is this Frieza person? And why did Vegeta seem so completely certain, even with his dying breath, that Kakarot specifically was destined to be the one to kill him? What did Frieza even actually do to the Saiyans as a people? Kakarot goes straight to Whis and asks him directly who Frieza is, but Whis just brushes the whole question off entirely. That's genuinely not something you need to be focused on right now. Right now, and for the foreseeable future, your training is the only thing that actually matters. Kakarot, trusting him as always, lets it go for the time being and gets right back into training. His own personal goal from here becomes sharpening his raw abilities even further, while Whis' real, unspoken goal is teaching him Ultra Instinct, because that, and only that, is the one thing that gives Kakarot any real shot as Beerus' actual opponent when the time finally comes. Life rolls on. Kakarot stays busy with his daily routine and his training. Whis keeps the sessions going, day after day, month after month. Then finally, the day everyone's genuinely been waiting for arrives.
The time bomb sitting in Beerus's private chambers goes off right on schedule. Beerus stirs awake, stretches, gets himself ready, and steps outside to find Kakarot already standing there waiting for him. Beerus can immediately sense that Kakarot's genuinely powerful. There's no denying that much on sight. But he still doesn't quite believe this particular guy is actually his long-promised toughest rival. Whis tells Beerus plainly that Kakarot has become the strongest living Saiyan by a wide margin, but Beerus isn't remotely impressed by that framing. He's well aware every single Saiyan left alive is objectively quite weak in the grand scheme of the universe, so being the strongest fish in a fairly small, weak pond doesn't exactly mean much to him. "I'm stepping into this fight fully intending to kill you," Beerus tells him flatly, "and if you actually want to survive what's about to happen, you'd better be planning on doing the exact same thing to me." Kakarot had genuinely assumed this was going to be some kind of friendly spar between them. He was very, very wrong about that. The battle finally kicks off for real. Kakarot transforms straight into Super Saiyan God right out of the gate. Beerus is legitimately visibly impressed. He'd always figured Saiyans only had that one great ape transformation and absolutely nothing beyond it. And now here's Kakarot casually showing him actual god-tier power on their very first exchange. The fight really gets going, both of them trading a rapid flurry of blows back and forth, and for a good long while their power genuinely looks completely even, neither one able to pull ahead. Beerus is clearly openly enjoying just how strong Kakarot's turned out to be. Then, gradually, Kakarot starts taking full control of the fight. Beerus suddenly can't even land a single clean hit on him anymore, no matter what he tries. Kakarot lands a solid punch straight to Beerus's face, sending him rocketing backward through the air. Beerus recovers himself mid-flight, closes the distance back in, and manages to land one solid hit of his own. But Kakarot bounces back almost instantly and returns fire with another clean hit right after. At that point, Beerus starts prepping a sphere of destruction, clearly done playing around. Fun little match, I'll give you that, but taking down an actual god takes quite a bit more than this. Just as he's about to unleash it on Kakarot, though, something makes him freeze completely mid-motion, a level of pure shock he's genuinely never felt in his entire long existence. He truly didn't expect a mere mortal to be capable of pulling off a technique like this, a technique so demanding that even a god of destruction would work up a sweat just trying to master it properly. Kakarot suddenly vanishes from directly in front of him, and when Beerus spins around, there's Kakarot standing calmly in his Ultra Instinct state, his entire outfit having shifted seamlessly into the god of destruction's own attire.
Whis, of course, already knew this exact battle would end up deciding who becomes the next official god of destruction of Universe 7. That's precisely why he'd quietly prepared everything well in advance. He'd already been to see the Grand Priest personally, briefed him fully on the entire situation, and secured formal permission ahead of time. Whoever came out on top of this fight would become the universe's next god of destruction, no questions asked. Kakarot powers up one final time, gathers everything he's got into a single strongest attack, and finishes Beerus off completely in one devastating hit. Kakarot is now officially and permanently the new god of destruction of Universe 7. Beerus losing this particular fight turns out to be a genuinely massive deal for the entire universe going forward. He'd spent the overwhelming majority of his existence just eating and sleeping, letting Universe 7's overall mortal level fall completely, embarrassingly flat as a result. But now the actual god running this
this universe is Kakarot, someone who genuinely deeply understands right from wrong. He's shaping up fast to be the single most perfect god of destruction this particular universe has ever had. After finally beating Beerus, Kakarot returns to his normal base form and immediately starts thinking hard about how he can actually go about improving the universe from here. Whis walks him through, step by step, exactly what being a god of destruction genuinely entails, because it turns out angels also carry their own duty to guide their assigned gods toward maintaining real balance, even though they technically can't get directly involved in the fighting themselves. First stop on this new journey, Kakarot and Whis head over to visit the Supreme Kai's planet together. Kakarot asks directly about the current overall state of the universe, and the Supreme Kai lays out quite bluntly exactly who the biggest active threats are right now. Frieza sits right at the very top of that list. No contest. That single name alone sends Vegeta's dying words flooding straight back into Kakarot's mind. Vegeta desperately wanted Frieza dead more than anything else, and now Kakarot's finally got more than enough raw power to actually make that happen for real. The Supreme Kai adds one more critical name to the list before they leave. Babidi is apparently getting close to waking up Majin Buu, and Buu's already wrecked this exact universe once before, badly, so he absolutely needs to be dealt with too.
Take out both of those threats permanently, the Supreme Kai explains, and the universe finally gets some genuine peace, which in turn gives him actual room to do his own job properly for once. Kakarot doesn't waste any more time. He heads straight for Frieza's ship without stopping. He tears through any soldier unfortunate enough to be standing in his path along the way, barely slowing down, and reaches Frieza himself directly. Frieza's visibly confused the moment he lays eyes on him. Kakarot's wearing the god of destruction's own outfit, but Beerus was supposed to be the reigning god of destruction, so where exactly did he go? Who are you, and how in the world did you get onto my ship? Frieza demands, genuinely rattled. Kakarot tells him straight, no games, no theatrics. He's the brand new god of destruction of Universe 7, and he earned that exact title by personally killing Beerus. Frieza can't wrap his head around that claim at all. The very idea that someone as supposedly untouchable as Beerus got taken out by a mere Saiyan is almost impossible for him to accept, even standing right there in front of the proof. Kakarot asks him flat out if he knows a Saiyan named Vegeta. Frieza plays it coy at first. It depends entirely who you mean, he says. It's a fairly common name among Saiyans after all. Kakarot clarifies without missing a beat. The Vegeta I'm talking about was, by all accounts, a genuinely terrible person, but he still had his pride, the exact same pride you personally crushed under your heel for years, and his dying wish with his last breath was for me to end you for good. Frieza shifts instantly into his final form and lunges straight at Kakarot without another word. Kakarot dodges the incoming attack with total ease, barely moving, grabs Frieza clean by the head mid-air, and slams him straight down into the ground hard enough to crater it. Frieza's absolutely certain this is finally it for him. This one's for every single Saiyan you ever killed, Kakarot tells him coldly, before unleashing one devastating final blast that finishes Frieza off completely, for good this time. Kakarot and Whis leave the ship together right after, without looking back. Frieza's body is still lying there in the wreckage of his own ship though, completely unattended. Babidi shows up not long after, uses his magic to link his own floor directly to Frieza's ship remotely, and starts quietly siphoning off Frieza's leftover energy. Bit by bit, Babidi had already banked a genuinely massive amount of energy beforehand from other sources, and with Frieza's considerable power now added on top of that existing pile, Majin Buu is finally, truly ready to wake up after all this time. Meanwhile, Kakarot and Whis are off elsewhere, busy collecting the Super Dragon Balls scattered across the cosmos. Whis had told him all about them earlier, and gathering the full set would let them undo a genuinely huge amount of lingering damage across the universe.
Only problem is, Champa and Vados happen to be hunting down the exact same set of Dragon Balls at the same time. Mid-search, the two pairs run straight into each other, face to face, out in open space. Champa immediately clocks that Kakarot is Universe 7's brand new god of destruction and asks pointedly what exactly he's planning on wishing for once he's got the full set. Kakarot admits, honestly, that he hasn't actually decided yet. Champa presses further, asking what happened to his own brother, Beerus, but Kakarot deliberately doesn't answer that one directly. Instead, he has Whis step in and explain to both Vados and Champa exactly why they need the Super Dragon Balls in the first place, simply to make Universe 7 a genuinely better place overall, which is precisely the kind of thing the Grand Priest and even Zeno himself would want to see happen anyway. Champa and Vados, after a moment, agree to back off entirely, letting Kakarot and Whis walk away with all 7 balls uncontested. Both gods and both angels then go their completely separate ways. Once Kakarot and Whis finally have the complete set of 7, Kakarot makes his wish and revives every single innocent life that Frieza and his soldiers had wiped out over the years. A huge number of people come flooding back to life, and even a handful of previously destroyed planets get fully restored in the process. A massive, tangible win for the universe's overall balance. A few months go by after that. Then, the Supreme Kai contacts Kakarot again with genuinely bad news this time. Majin Buu is finally fully awake. Kakarot had originally planned to eliminate Buu entirely before he could ever wake up in the first place, but Babidi kept relocating his hideout constantly using magic, and the plan never quite came together in time as a result. Now that Buu's fully out in the open, though, Kakarot figures he can take out both Babidi and Buu together in one single clean sweep instead. Kakarot and Whis track down Babidi's current location without much trouble. First up is Pui Pui, who Kakarot dispatches with essentially zero effort at all, barely even trying. Next up is Yakan, and while Kakarot could just as easily finish him off in one hit too, he deliberately holds back this time because he senses something oddly familiar buried in Yakan's overall energy signature, and it just so happens he's got a technique that can free souls trapped inside someone, the fusion technique, closely adjacent to the one he originally learned from the Elder Kai. Kakarot had actually picked this specific technique up on a Namekian planet that had been fully revived earlier through the Super Dragon Balls, Planet Dad specifically, knowing full well even back then that a technique like that would eventually come in handy somewhere down the line. After successfully separating out the absorbed souls trapped inside, Kakarot easily finishes off Dabura next, then Babidi right after that, and turns to Whis, genuinely confused now about where all these various characters even originally came from. Whis admits, somewhat sheepishly, that it's honestly a mystery even to him, one he'll definitely have to look into properly later. Kakarot and Whis then head off together to reunite all the newly freed souls with their actual home planet. At this particular point in the story, Kakarot's effectively cleared out every single major threat facing Universe 7. All that's left now is waiting out a full year for the Super Dragon Balls to fully recharge so they can be used again to undo the damage Majin Buu and Babidi caused during their rampage. Kakarot uses this entire downtime productively, training on Planet Dad directly under the Elder Kai, and manages to fully master fine-tuned ki control in the process. A year later, right on schedule, the Dragon Balls become usable again, and Kakarot makes his wish, fully restoring every single innocent life that Buu and Babidi had taken. Universe 7 is finally completely clean of threats. Kakarot's shown both Whis and Beerus through his own actions that if you genuinely give the universe enough time, it really can heal itself. Wiping it all out was never actually actually the right solution to begin with. For a while after that, everything settles into a genuinely peaceful, normal rhythm. But as we all know, time never truly stands still for very long. Kakarot took out Frieza personally, sure, but Frieza's old soldiers are still very much alive and scattered around out there. And so, crucially, is King Cold, the man who originally ran the whole operation before Frieza ever took over from him, and who very much still wants revenge for his son's death. King Cold starts quietly, patiently rebuilding his army behind the scenes, growing steadily stronger by the day without drawing any attention. He and Frieza genuinely never had any real beef working directly under Beerus's old rule. They simply kept their heads down and stayed safe under Beerus's reign, with essentially nothing else left in the universe to actually fear. But Kakarot represents a completely different kind of god of destruction entirely, one who genuinely won't let anything slide past him unchecked. If he sees a real threat forming, he ends it immediately, on the spot, no hesitation. King Cold knows perfectly well that if he ever wants any real shot at actually beating Kakarot, his own personal power eventually needs to surpass his by a real margin.
And Kakarot genuinely can't be baited, tricked, or manipulated the way lesser gods might be. He lives entirely for the universe's good, never for his own personal gain. So King Cold plays the long game instead, patiently, methodically building up his forces without ever causing any visible destruction along the way, keeping himself completely off Kakarot's radar for as long as humanly possible. Eventually, though, Whis catches wind of it anyway, King Cold secretly reviving his old army piece by piece, and there's a very real chance he ends up becoming just as dangerous as Frieza once was, maybe even worse. Kakarot decides it's finally time to go have a direct word with him. Guess I'm going to have to teach this guy a proper lesson about how things actually work around here now, he says. Losing his own son apparently didn't teach him a thing, huh? Fine by me. We'll just make sure this next lesson actually sticks this time around. He asks Whis exactly where King Cold's currently stationed. Turns out he's aboard his personal ship right now, not far off at all. Kakarot and Whis head straight over, and Kakarot deliberately waits patiently outside the ship first, telling the guards to let both himself and Whis inside. The soldiers check in with King Cold directly first, then grant the two of them full access without any pushback. King Cold rises to greet them both personally. "What exactly brings you all the way out here?" he asks, all smiles. Kakarot cuts straight through the pleasantries. What exactly is going on with all this army building? King Cold plays completely innocent about it. Just business as usual, my lord. Nothing more sinister than that. We travel out to other planets, providing them resources they genuinely lack so their people can develop properly and thrive. And as for my son's past mistakes, I sincerely apologize on his behalf. I promise you, whatever damage he ended up causing this universe, I intend to personally make up for tenfold, and then some. Kakarot doesn't buy a single word of that story, not for a second, but there's genuinely nothing concrete he can actually act on right now. King Cold hasn't caused any visible destruction anywhere yet, and there's zero hard evidence Kakarot could point to. Kakarot and Whis leave the ship and head back home for the time being. Kakarot tells Whis afterward that he doesn't trust King Cold for even a single second and wants constant eyes kept on both him and his growing army from now on. Whis suggests bringing the Galactic Patrol into the loop. There are plenty of capable officers stationed there who could realistically monitor King Cold's movements around the clock, including one specific officer named Beerus. Kakarot agrees to the plan, and the two of them head over to Galactic Patrol headquarters together to meet Beerus in person. The very moment Kakarot lays eyes on him, he immediately clocks something unusual. Beerus isn't actually a mortal at all. He's an angel, hiding in plain sight. Beerus quietly asks Kakarot to keep that fact strictly between them. Nobody else at the patrol has any idea, and he genuinely wants to keep his real identity a secret from his
Whis colleagues. Kakarot respects that request without question and treats him exactly like any other regular officer going forward. He asks Whis privately why Beerus specifically got picked for this particular job. Whis explains it's genuinely valuable, meaningful training for Beerus personally, something he stands to learn an enormous amount from over time. Kakarot formally orders Beerus to keep close tabs on King Cold and his entire army going forward, and to report back immediately the second anything looks even slightly off. With that settled, Kakarot and Whis head back home once again. A couple of months pass, then Beerus checks in with Whis directly. King Cold, from everything he's observed, is doing exactly what he always claimed to be doing, traveling between planets, providing resources, letting local populations develop naturally. Whis and Kakarot both listen carefully to the full report, and something still feels quietly off to Kakarot underneath it all. But he ultimately lets it slide for now and goes back to his own normal day-to-day routine. King Cold, meanwhile, has managed to bury his true underlying motives completely and successfully. He's genuinely still handing out real resources on the surface, sure, but he's also simultaneously recruiting the single strongest warrior from every planet he personally visits directly into his own private army, quietly building toward the day it's finally strong enough to get real revenge on Kakarot once and for all. Beerus never once picks up on any of this, because King Cold has every single new recruit doing exactly the same surface-level work he himself is doing. Nothing even remotely suspicious ever crosses Beerus's radar as a result. Then, one day, King Cold's army detects an absolutely massive power signal radiating from a specific planet, and they head straight there without hesitation. That planet turns out to be planet Vampa. King Cold's forces land and immediately spot two Saiyans standing there, one with a fairly average, unremarkable power level, and the other carrying power that's basically completely off the charts by comparison. The soldiers relay this discovery straight up to King Cold personally, who promptly invites both of them aboard his ship and starts talking things over directly with Paragus.
King Cold spins a convenient lie for both Paragus and Broly right there on the spot. He claims a single rogue Saiyan betrayed and slaughtered every other Saiyan on the planet, and that Frieza himself had actually tried valiantly to save them all before ultimately dying in the attempt. He very conveniently leaves out the inconvenient detail that Paragus himself had actually wanted planet Vegeta destroyed in the first place, since King Vegeta had personally ruined both Paragus's and Broly's entire lives years earlier. Paragus asks bluntly if King Vegeta died too in all this. King Cold confirms it without missing a beat. Only 3 Saiyans left alive total, he claims, the 2 of them standing right here, plus 1 single lone Saiyan responsible for wiping out absolutely everyone else. King Cold then asks both of them to formally join his cause for revenge, but Paragus, as it turns out, already got his own personal revenge a long time ago, and honestly couldn't care less about any of this anymore. King Cold just shrugs the refusal off easily. Your call entirely. You're completely free to go back to that planet we originally rescued you both from, if that's what you genuinely prefer. Paragus obviously doesn't actually want that fate at all, and reluctantly, begrudgingly agrees to stick around after all. King Cold already knows full well that Paragus himself isn't much of an actual fighter personally, but there's clearly something genuinely special simmering inside his son. He asks directly if Broly's ever actually fought in a real serious battle before. Paragus admits somewhat reluctantly that he hasn't, not really. No problem whatsoever, King Cold says smoothly. Our ship's got more than enough facilities on board for proper training. Once he's finally strong enough to take Kakarot down for good, we attack his planet directly and finish this once and for all. My son's death, every single Saiyan's death, will get our full revenge for all of it. With that settled, Broly begins intensive training aboard the ship, and Beerus reports this entire conversation straight
right back to Whis and Kakarot without delay. He'd genuinely been watching King Cold closely this whole time from the very start and caught every single word of it. Exactly like Kakarot had suspected all along, King Cold had been playing him completely from day one. Whis asks Kakarot what he wants to do now. Should they just go end King Cold immediately, right now, before this goes any further? Kakarot says no, not yet. King Cold already said outright he's planning to come to him directly, so let him come on his own terms. In the meantime, Kakarot wants Beerus talking to the entire Galactic Patrol Force as a whole, because taking down King Cold's complete army properly is going to require some genuinely serious numbers on their side.
Whis agrees with the plan, though he can't resist getting one small jab in.
As you wish, my lord, though no matter how thoroughly I train you personally, that Saiyan blood of yours is always going to crave a good fight regardless.
Kakarot just smiles at that and gets right back to sparring with Whis, while the two of them wait patiently for King Cold's eventual attack to finally materialize. 2 full months later, King Cold's finally confident that Broly's genuinely ready to take on Kakarot directly and settle the entire score once and for all. King Cold brings his complete army down onto Kakarot's home planet in one coordinated strike. Kakarot's been patiently waiting for exactly this moment the whole time and is fully, completely prepared for it. What King Cold doesn't realize, though, is that the Galactic Patrol's officers are already secretly stationed and fully ready to shut his soldiers down the second they even attempt to land. King Cold, Paragus, and Broly step off the ship together, confident and ready. "Your time's finally up, Kakarot," King Cold announces loudly, clearly enjoying the moment. "Today, a single Saiyan finally kills you for good, one who's genuinely surpassed even the gods themselves." Broly immediately charges forward, while Kakarot calmly closes the distance to meet him head-on. Kakarot looks directly into Broly's eyes mid-charge and instantly sees the whole truth in there. This is a genuinely pure-hearted Saiyan underneath it all, one who simply isn't strong enough yet to actually give him a real, satisfying fight. One clean attack later, Broly's completely out cold on the ground. King Cold and Paragus are both utterly stunned by what they just witnessed. They'd never once imagined power on this level even existed anywhere in the universe. Kakarot walks calmly toward them both. "Don't worry, I only knocked him out cold, nothing permanent. You two, though, I'm ending permanently, right here, right now." He fires off a clean Hakai blast and finishes off both King Cold and Paragus on the spot, once and for all. Whis asks what to actually do with the unconscious Saiyan lying there. He's genuinely capable, and his heart underneath it all is completely clean, Kakarot explains. "That's exactly why I spared him instead of finishing him too. He could honestly end up being a real asset to this entire universe someday. Do me one favor, though. Wipe his memory of all this. Make him genuinely believe King Cold and Paragus betrayed him somehow, and that we're actually the ones who stepped in and saved him." Not too long after that, Beerus contacts Whis again, this time with genuinely urgent news. A massive, ancient threat has resurfaced out of nowhere. 10 million years ago, apparently, a monster once tore this entire universe apart, and that exact same monster has just broken clean out of the galactic prison. His name is Moro. What actually happened, as it turns out, is that the entire Galactic Patrol Force was completely tied up dealing with King Cold's army during the attack, and Moro used that exact window of distraction to make his escape clean. Beerus asks directly if he should just go handle Moro personally himself right now. Whis shuts that idea down immediately and firmly. "Absolutely not. You cannot do that under any circumstances. You're an angel, Beerus, and angels have very specific rules they must follow. No exceptions. You're technically allowed to recapture him and put him back in prison if you can manage it, sure, but
but you are absolutely not allowed to actually kill him yourself, or you will lose your entire existence as a consequence. Whis glances over at Kakarot as he says this, and can already tell exactly what's going through his head. Kakarot's already quietly planning to handle this particular threat entirely on his own. He's already actively working out in his own head exactly how he's going to take Moro down personally. Kakarot has Whis immediately start tracking Moro's current location, and their connection with Meris cuts out shortly after that. Whis eventually manages to track Moro down. By this point, Moro's already consumed a genuinely huge number of planets during his time loose, making him considerably more powerful now than he ever was before his imprisonment. That fact alone is more than enough to make Kakarot genuinely furious. He and Whis are just about to head straight for him when a message suddenly comes in from Grand Kai first, urging them to wait. Grand Kai's actually fought Moro personally before, a long time ago, and knows him extremely well as a result. He warns them both seriously that if Moro ever manages to fully regain all of his old magic, he'll become nearly impossible to beat by conventional means, potentially even capable of absorbing a god of destruction's raw power directly. They're going to need an actual, real strategy this time around, not just brute force. Meanwhile, over on Namek, Moro's already landed and started consuming the local Namekians one by one without mercy. Partway through, Moro reads one particular Namekian's mind directly and learns all about the existence of their Dragon Balls, and immediately starts absorbing the remaining Namekians one at a time, being extremely careful never to wipe them all out completely at once, since doing that would cause the Dragon Balls themselves to vanish right along with them. The surviving Namekians desperately try to protect their sacred Dragon Balls from him, but by this point, Moro's already consumed far too many planets to realistically stop anymore.
He gathers up the complete set, summons Puranga directly, and makes his very first wish, fully restoring his old magic back to its original strength. His second wish gets him a fully functional spaceship, letting him travel freely between planets from here on out, consuming even more innocent people along the way with ease. For his third and final wish, he asks Puranga for a specific piece of information, and then, once he's got what he needs, finishes off the rest of planet Namek completely, leaving nothing behind. Grand Kai personally arrives on Kakarot's planet not long after, and the two of them start hashing out a real strategy against Moro together. The Supreme Kai deliberately stays behind this time. If he ends up dying during this particular fight, Kakarot dies right along with him instantly, so it's simply too risky for him to tag along. Kakarot tells Grand Kai plainly that his own power is already way above Moro's, and that he could genuinely beat him easily on his own. But Grand Kai completely disagrees with that assessment. Every single attack you land on him just makes him stronger in return. That's the whole problem here. We need an actual real strategy first, before anything else. Sealing off his magic completely has to come before any of the actual fighting starts. Kakarot asks Whis directly where Moro's currently located right now. Whis tells him Moro's off consuming yet another entire planet as they speak right this very moment. That single piece of news is more than enough to send Kakarot's temper spiking hard. He's genuinely done waiting around patiently at this point and gets ready to go after Moro directly, right now, strategy or no strategy. As a full god of destruction, his direct orders technically can't be overruled by Grand Kai anyway, so Grand Kai doesn't end up tagging along this time, but stays fully ready to act on his end if things somehow go sideways. Kakarot and Whis finally reach Moro out on some unknown, unnamed planet. Kakarot charges straight in without any hesitation, landing a brutal opening punch right to Moro's gut. Moro shakes it off without much visible reaction, but it's already clear this power is nothing remotely normal. This particular warrior is clearly the real deal. Moro asks casually if he's some kind of friend of Grand Kai's,
eyes. Kakarot completely ignores the question and tries powering up further in response, but finds he genuinely can't. Something's actively pulling his own power away from him somehow, and he can't immediately figure out what's actually happening to him. "You do realize I can literally absorb your power directly, right?" Moro tells him, almost taunting. Kakarot glances quickly over at Whis, who heals him instantly on the spot, and Kakarot charges straight back in without missing a beat.
The two of them get locked into a genuinely intense back-and-forth exchange after that. Kakarot's actual plan here is to use the fusion technique to split Moro's absorbed power back apart and bring a whole lot of those stolen lives back in the process. But every single bit of energy the technique manages to pull off of Moro's simultaneously pulling right back off of Kakarot at the exact same time. Kakarot lands a solid punch that sends Moro flying backward hard, but Moro recovers fast regardless and comes right back in, actually laughing now as Kakarot's own energy visibly starts dropping in real time. Whis heals him again immediately. Kakarot dives right back into the fight, and again his energy predictably starts draining away just as fast. By this point, Kakarot's fully caught on to exactly what Moro's actual game is here. Moro genuinely thinks he's got Kakarot exactly where he wants him now. What Moro doesn't realize, though, is that Kakarot walked into this fight with plenty of his own careful plans too. Kakarot signals over to Whis, who heals him one final time and hands him something entirely new this time, the sealed jar. Moro's absorbed a genuinely massive amount of Kakarot's raw energy by this point in the fight and starts actively devouring all of it greedily. But energy like this, literal god of destruction energy, is going to take real meaningful time for him to fully consume properly. Kakarot closes the distance instantly the second Moro's distracted and slices clean straight through him without warning. Moro laughs it off at first, genuinely thinking nothing's happened to him at all, but suddenly he finds himself getting sucked directly into the jar and sealed completely inside it with no way back out. This is the exact same technique Beerus once famously used to seal away the Elder Kai a long time ago, a technique that lets any god of destruction trap literally any mortal, even a fully immortal being, safely inside a container indefinitely. Kakarot hands the sealed jar over to Whis, along with clear instructions on exactly what to do with it going forward. Just like that, quietly and cleanly, another major universal threat is gone for good. Kakarot and Whis head back to his home planet together. Grand Kai is thoroughly, genuinely impressed by the sheer scale of Kakarot's power on display. He genuinely underestimated him going in, but Kakarot's just proven definitively that a god of destruction's power really has no practical ceiling at all. Kakarot formally orders Grand Kai to go restore every single planet that Moro consumed during his rampage and bring proper balance back to the universe as a whole. Grand Kai agrees readily and heads off immediately to handle it personally.
Around this same general time, Beerus shows up unannounced on Kakarot's planet with Broly in tow, asking politely if he can train Broly here going forward instead. There's genuinely nothing meaningful left for Broly to actually do back at the Galactic Patrol anymore, and Broly's raw power has become far too extreme for anywhere on the base to safely contain, since ramping his power up even slightly starts actively destroying the surrounding facility. Kakarot agrees readily to the request and tells Beerus directly that Broly's got genuinely serious potential and is going to matter a great deal for Universe 7 going forward. He specifically wants Beerus to personally handle training him from here on out. Beerus agrees to take on the responsibility and takes Broly along with him right away. For a good while after that, Universe 7 genuinely has zero active problems to worry about. Meanwhile, the story shifts over to Champa and Vados for a bit. Champa's been quietly stewing on one single question this entire time. How exactly did Kakarot become Universe 7's official god of destruction in the first place? And where in the universe did his own brother Beerus actually disappear off to to during all this. Champa's been hunting down the Super Dragon Balls himself this whole time too, as it turns out, and he's already managed to collect 6 of the full 7, just missing that final elusive 7th one. Vados asks him directly why he even actually plans to wish for once he's got the complete set. Champa admits, somewhat evasively, that he already told Kakarot he genuinely hadn't decided yet on that front, but the honest truth is he already knows exactly what he wants deep down, because he's figured out for certain by now that Beerus is actually dead and that Kakarot personally is the one who killed him. Champa's actual plan is to use his wish to bring Kakarot back into non-existence entirely as direct payback for what happened to his own brother. The genuine consequences this kind of act could have on the wider multiverse, one god of destruction outright killing another god of destruction in cold blood, don't seem to cross Champa's mind even once. He doesn't particularly care what Zeno himself might end up doing about it afterward either. All he can really think about over and over is this: if Kakarot managed to kill Beerus and become the strongest as a direct result, then Champa can just as easily turn around and kill Kakarot the exact same way. He tells Vados to start preparing immediately. They're heading straight to Universe 7. If Universe 6 genuinely only has 6 Super Dragon Balls total right now, that means quite clearly that the missing 7th one has to be sitting somewhere in Universe 7.
Back on what's otherwise just an ordinary day for Whis and Kakarot. After finally beating Moro, Kakarot's been sparring casually with Whis to stay sharp, while Whis has personally been busy repairing all the leftover damage Moro left scattered across Universe 7, work that's basically fully finished by this point in the timeline. There's genuinely no active threat anywhere in the universe right now. Then, Whis suddenly gets a call in from Maris, asking politely if Broly can come train specifically on Kakarot's own planet instead, since there's truly nothing meaningful left for him back at Galactic Patrol headquarters, and no facility there can safely handle his constantly rising power without things eventually blowing up entirely. Kakarot asks Whis directly whether he genuinely thinks Broly should be allowed to train out here with them. Kakarot just smiles at the question, which, translated properly, basically means he wants both Broly and Maris to come train on his planet together going forward. Kakarot already knows deep down that he can genuinely help mold Broly into a truly great Saiyan warrior over time, and Whis, in turn, can help shape Maris into a genuinely great angel in his own right as well. Maris and Broly arrive together by spaceship not long after that, and Kakarot's honestly genuinely thrilled about the whole arrangement. Every single plan he's carefully laid out this whole time is falling into place exactly the way he originally wanted it to. No remaining threats anywhere in the entire universe, and everyone actively working together toward making things genuinely better for everyone involved. Grand Kai, Broly, Maris, Whis, all of them, under Kakarot's steady guidance, could genuinely accomplish absolutely anything for this universe's long-term future together. Genuinely great news for absolutely everyone involved, except, of course, Kakarot has absolutely no idea that someone out there already despises his very existence down to his core, and that exact same person is already well on their way here to end him personally. Maris and Broly are right in the middle of a training session together when, completely out of nowhere, someone lands a solid hit on Broly from directly behind him. Broly has no idea whatsoever who actually did it, but Whis and Kakarot both immediately clock exactly what happened. Someone used the time skip technique specifically to land that particular hit cleanly. This whole thing was actually Champa's carefully planned setup from the start, aiming to knock Kakarot off balance indirectly through this exact hit. But the real question hanging over everything now is whether that same hit can even hold up at all against an actual god of destruction directly. Kakarot asks Whis plainly who this mystery attacker actually is. Whis explains calmly that this particular fighter's originally from another universe entirely, a professional assassin known simply as Hit. While Kakarot and Whis are still talking this over, Hit takes the brief opening to use time skip again, closing the distance on Kakarot directly and going for a clean punch, but Kakarot casually blocks the whole thing without breaking a sweat at all. Kakarot looks him dead in the eye afterward and asks flatly who exactly sent him here. Hit, predictably, doesn't give up a single name in response. Staying completely silent is practically part of his professional code as an assassin. Hit tries using time skip again to make his escape, but it simply doesn't work this time. Kakarot's raw power is so far above his own that the technique effectively just doesn't function properly against him at all. Fine, don't tell me his name then, Kakarot says easily. Here's a different offer instead. If you manage to beat the guy you already hit earlier, I'll personally let you walk out of here alive. No hard feelings. But if you lose to him instead, I end you myself, right here, right now. For the very first time in his entire life, Hit genuinely feels real fear creeping in. He's never once felt power on this level before, not even from Champa himself. But there's at least one silver lining for Hit here. His actual original assignment was Broly specifically, not Kakarot at all, and Hit genuinely believes he can beat Broly given the chance. He turns his full attention toward Broly and gets ready to properly fight. Whis asks Kakarot quietly, "My lord, shouldn't we actually go find out who sent this assassin here in the first place?" Kakarot just smiles at the question. "You already know exactly who sent him here, Whis. Traveling between universes only ever works through official treaties, remember? Which makes the whole thing pretty obvious once you think about it. Champa sent him here personally. I killed his brother and became Universe 7's god of destruction as a direct result. Pretty clear he wants his own revenge on me for that, plain and simple." Whis feels a genuine, quiet sense of pride hearing Kakarot work all that out so quickly on his own. He raised a god of destruction sharp enough to piece something like that together almost instantly, and up to this exact point in the story, genuinely everything Kakarot's done has actually benefited the wider universe in real, tangible ways. The battle between Broly and Hit kicks off properly not long after. Early on in the fight, Hit's clearly visibly dominating the exchange, repeatedly hitting Broly using time skip before he can even react properly. But the longer this particular fight drags on, the noticeably stronger Broly keeps getting in real time. This turns out to be exactly the kind of intense fight he genuinely needed all along to finally unlock his true full potential, and he's developing rapidly right before everyone's eyes.
Even Hit's visibly improving mid-fight as things go on, his own time skip getting sharper and more precise, his individual strikes getting noticeably cleaner and faster. Kakarot's watching this entire fight extremely closely from the sidelines, genuinely more entertained by it than he expected to be going in. Suddenly, though, he senses another distinct presence nearby that wasn't there before. Champa and Vados are already secretly on the planet, quietly watching this exact fight unfold from a safe distance. Kakarot uses instant transmission immediately and appears directly in front of Champa without warning. "What exactly brings you all the way out here?" Kakarot asks casually. "Looks like an assassin from your home universe ran off to hide out here, and you've come personally to collect him. Am I right about that?" Champa's fury spikes instantly hearing that, and he's genuinely about to attack Kakarot outright on the spot, but Kakarot stops him cold before he can. "We can't actually fight each other directly, you know that. It's completely against the rules, and even if we somehow did anyway, you're smart enough to already know exactly how that fight ends for you." Champa backs off after a tense moment and calms himself down. Deep down, he already knows full well he can't actually beat Kakarot in a real fight. Kakarot's already become the single strongest god of destruction across every universe that exists. "I've actually got something specifically for you," Kakarot tells him, almost casually. "Call it a gift, and I genuinely promise you you're going to love it once you see it." Champa shoots back, still skeptical. "And what exactly happens if I don't love it?"
Kakarot replies simply that I'll do absolutely whatever you want after that. No arguments. Champa figures, after a moment's thought, this is a genuinely golden opportunity handed right to him. He's got all the leverage here regardless of what happens, and agrees to the terms. First things first, Kakarot says, already moving. We need to actually go break up this fight before it gets out of hand. Kakarot, Whis, Champa, and Vados all head together toward where Broly and Hit are still fighting. Kakarot lands one clean hit directly to Hit's neck, knocking him out cold instantly. Broly sees Kakarot approaching and immediately calms himself down on his own, dropping back down to his base form and stopping the fight entirely without needing to be told twice. Kakarot walks over to Whis and starts quietly filling him in on exactly what comes next in his plan. While that private conversation's happening off to the side, Vados turns to Champa and asks what he honestly thinks this mysterious gift could possibly turn out to be, and whether he'll genuinely end up liking it or not.
Champa tells her flatly, I don't actually care what the gift even is, honestly. All I genuinely want out of any of this is revenge for my brother's death. No gift Kakarot could possibly hand me means anything at all next to my own brother's life. Kakarot and Whis walk back over together to where Champa and Vados are waiting. Where I'm about to take you both isn't far from here at all, Kakarot tells them simply. Just follow along behind us. Kakarot and Whis lead the way forward, with Champa and Vados trailing along right behind them, heading directly toward Universe 6 itself. Champa and Vados genuinely have no idea how their own supposed gift could possibly have ended up back in their own home universe of all places. Eventually, Kakarot and Whis come to a stop directly in front of a completely unfamiliar planet, the actual location of the seventh and final Super Dragon Ball, as it turns out. Kakarot tells Whis to go ahead and pull the rest of the Super Dragon Balls out of storage and gather the complete set together in one place. Champa suddenly realizes he actually had a genuine shot here this whole time. He could have simply wished Kakarot straight out of existence right then and there if he'd just known the language. Problem is, he never actually learned the specific language required to properly communicate with Super Shenron directly. Kakarot and Whis summon Super Shenron themselves without any trouble. Kakarot makes his personal wish. Super Shenron grants it instantly and vanishes right after, and Kakarot and Whis start calmly heading back toward their own home planet together. But Champa never actually got a wish out of any of this. He's been thoroughly, completely scammed. Furious now, he moves to go stop Whis and Kakarot before they can leave, but before he can even reach them, someone suddenly stops him cold from directly behind. Champa spins around fast, and standing right there, plain as day, is Lord Beerus himself. Kakarot's actual wish, it turns out, had been to fully revive Lord Beerus, but because Universe 7 already has an official new god of destruction now, Beerus comes back to life as a regular mortal instead this time around. Beerus tells Champa calmly, let it go, brother. This genuinely isn't on him at all. I'm the one who personally challenged him to that fight, remember? I lost, and he won fair and square. He genuinely deserves to be my replacement here. I can feel it clearly. A whole lot of real good has already happened across Universe 7, specifically because of him. Champa can't quite believe what he's actually hearing. His own brother genuinely praising someone else out loud for once. Beerus has never once complimented a single living soul in his entire existence up to this point, and this is genuinely the very first time he's ever said anything like this about anybody at all. Whis and Kakarot quietly walk off toward their own path together, while Beerus adds one final thing to Champa before they're fully out of earshot. I may be a mortal now, sure, but don't you dare think for a second that means I'm weak. One day, mark my words, I'll surpass his power completely and beat him myself, fair and square. Remember that, brother, and that everyone is genuinely where this particular story wraps up completely. There's no further chapters after this one. This is the full and complete story from start to finish. Let me know down in the comments which series you all think I should tackle next. That's genuinely it for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed watching this, go ahead and smash that like button, share it around with your friends, and subscribe if you somehow haven't already. Work hard, study well, eat good, and get plenty of sleep out there.